Welcome to the Excel, home to 7 different Olympic disciplines over the course of the London 2012 Games, the most housed all under one roof. And interviews from around the Women's Super League. Here's what's coming up. Lynsey's here with the sport now. Lynsey, thank you very much. Yes, perhaps look away if you're a Villa fan, but good news for Leicester Tigers supporters. Good evening. There are plenty of goals to get through. Let's start with the Premier League. And there were mixed fortunes for our sides. Aston Villa and Stoke City both recording questions at the Queen of Pop. First Q's 70-page celebration of women of music, starring everyone from original punk poet Patti Smith to Alison Goldfrapp to one of 2008's great new voices, Adele. And in Q Review, new albums by Alex Turner's Last Shadow Puppets and the Kooks are reviewed and rated. Q, Britain's biggest and best music magazine, on sale now. And you might be wondering how such an inexperienced skier gets around such an advanced ski resort. Well, I'm no fool. You use a skidoo, and also you have someone who can take you around wherever you want it to go. Off we go. Bye. Tonight at 9, Carl Pilkington is in India for An Idiot Abroad. Britcop's Frontline Crime are in Devon and Cornwall on 2. And The Sopranos are in the middle of a scandal on Sky. We had here today, and we thank everyone, the staff and players at Lincoln, for making us welcome. Goodbye, and we'll see you next time.
And I'm doing all the cheers.
Yay!
And my backdrop's loving my hand movement.
I don't know, I'm loving the green screen.
Lynsey, thank you so much for taking time out of your heavy schedule just to be on Standing in My Truth Sports Edition show with me. You know what I mean? How are you feeling?
It's my absolute pleasure, because I could not turn you down. We go back a long way. I think the first time that I ever met you, I was interviewing you in a studio in Norwich. Yeah. Very
How
Alan
the tables have
Partridge.
turned. How the tables have turned.
I know.
Crazy. And there's so much I would love everybody to know about you, because you know, just charting your journey from when I first met you, and I'm still, you know, I'm still in the music, but you've grown from Blur, which we'll get to that point, to where you are today. So without further ado, just say hello to the public, my public, and just say who
I
you are,
will.
just briefly.
Well, to all freestyler fans, Maxfield fans, I'm right with you, because I love Valerie so much. Love her voice. What a powerhouse she is. And you know that I've thought that for a very, very long time.
Lynsey Hooper is in the house. Again, thank you, Lynsey, for coming on. Okay, I know that you have got one hell of a schedule today. We've got, this week is FA Cup weekend, isn't it, really? So I'm surprised I haven't caught you running up the motorway. I think you're going to be heading on the motorway somewhere. We'll find out where your the next game is. But without further ado, Lynsey, where did you actually grow up? Where you, because I know, and I always kept thinking, where's your accent from? But tell us,
I do
where
get
did you...
that a lot. I do. People say, oh, I know that you're northern because you say grass and not grass, and path and not path.
Oh.
So they know that I'm north of the M25.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time people don't realise, but I'm from Dudley in the West Midlands.
Right.
I mean, if we go even further down, I'm from a little village in Shropshire, which is right in between Dudley and Wolverhampton.
Oh, like, she's near Black Country, folks. That's what she's trying to tell you.
Yeah.
So let me educate you there. Do you know what I mean? And you've always stayed there, even though within your career, you've always stayed there. So you were born and bred in Dudley or Wolverhampton. What was growing up like? You know, do you know what I mean? In your area, were you a tomboyish, and what was your parents like? Just give me a brief synopsis.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, it's such a friendly, community orientated area. Everybody knows everyone. You know the butchers and the greengrocers and the paper boy, you know, everybody by name. It's that sort of small town village, but really, really lovely. And growing up, that was exactly what I needed. I love the fact that all of my family, pretty much bar sort of one or two exceptions, was within a mile radius of each other. So we would spend many a Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening together in different households. So my dad's family was the one side, which was from one little village down the road, and my mum's the other side. And it was just great for me growing up, because there were so many opportunities for me to to play sport, which I love to do.
Right.
To grow up with my lifelong friends. Some friends from nursery are still my friends now.
Oh, fantastic.
And I think that's so important that
It
you've got that grounding.
It is, yeah. So was your you know when you speak it, I'll tell you what I kept thinking of. Oh God, I must be showing my age. The Hovis advert.
That is showing your age, yeah. The Hovis advert. You're going to say the Grimley.
Well, that was, you know, that I could hear the no, 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 no. You know, the families coming together, and it warmed my heart. To be fair, I'm not gonna lie. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Did you, sports, Matt? You said that you had the sports around you. Did that include mum and dad as well? You know,
not really.
First?
No, I think it skipped a generation. So my grandparents, so my granddad and my uncle were sports mad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I think it skipped a generation. Although what I will say is that even like my grandma on my one side and my mum really loved football. So they would watch Match of the Day, they'd watch Final Score, or as it was Grandstand back then, religiously.
Oh yeah.
And I just was brought up around it and didn't realise that was different in other parts of the country where mums weren't sitting down and grandmas weren't necessarily sitting down as much as mine were. But I was surrounded by football lovers, and I was surrounded by sports lovers, really. And it was when I was at primary school that I was just always playing the sport. So I played football with the boys in the playground. I used to do cross-country running and do races for the primary school and play netball. And I just loved it. It was my area really to express myself. And when I went to secondary school, you could not get me out the PE department. That was it. So
were you called a tomboy? Did anyone call you a tomboy? Did you ever had that moniker against your name? Because you were sports.
Really? I mean, I was the sporty one. So when the Spice Girls came out and I had my group of friends, you know, I'd be the sporty Spice, definitely. But I was really, really lucky that a lot of my friends love sport too. And they were very popular, and they were, I mean, we weren't the most popular group at school, but we were in a popular group.
Yeah.
And so I never really had that targeted at me because we were also very, very girly in a lot of ways, you know, love dressing up, love the school discos, all those sorts of things. But at the same time, didn't mind sweating occasionally on the sports field.
Yeah, on the sports field. So there we come then. So you're sports minded, you know, which, you know, as you said, it skipped a generation. I'm just going to go back because I have to have that little D. The grandparents actually sitting down and watching, you know, well, was it Grandstand, as you said? Yeah. I think that's quality because that was my dad. I think that's where, so I get it. I totally get that. You know what I mean? And
I used to avoid the Saturday afternoon big shop at the supermarket by promising that I would go and keep my granddad company. And I used to sit on his knee and he'd have the wireless on, listening to all the football and all the results. And I'd fill in his coupon, you know, when they did the pools. I used to fill in all the results for him. And then I'd listen, rang in to phone-in shows on the radio afterwards talking about Wolves. And I'd listen to him. And he was a big character, my granddad. He had a great personality, very charismatic. Everybody knew him. Yeah. And I definitely was a bit of a chip off the old block. I used to be that person that if you went on a holiday, my mum and dad would always say, you know, everyone would know them as Lynsey's mum and dad, you know.
Because you're vocal. Yeah, they know
the hind legs of the donkey. Yeah, that was it. And I think I got it from him. But there is something, I think, in all of us, and I'm sure this is the same with you and music as well, where there's just something there, because I just had that ability with sport. I never got to the higher echelons really of anything. I went to Loughborough and I played county level at quite a few things. But oh my word, if I could have just been the best at something, I would have given that. Yeah. But I just had a natural knack for playing and doing most things. So picking up a bat and ball, playing netball, playing football. I just had the knack to go and do that. And I don't know where that came from because my mum and dad weren't really that bothered about taking me down the park to kick a ball. Yeah. So I don't know.
Did you have brothers and sisters as well?
No, I'm an only child.
Oh, wow.
Lots of cousins, but no siblings.
Oh, wow. You'd have thought you had a brother. The brother might have been an influence, and your parents. And wow, okay, so we're still digging it. That bit I didn't know. I thought I knew everything. That bit I didn't know. And even when I was like, you know, researching, and I kept thinking, she's never said brother or sister. Or maybe I've got that wrong. So I thought I will ask her that question.
Yeah.
Great stuff. So here we are. When did you get that first love? Because forget about, okay, you've done all the sports, but you didn't actually set out to be a presenter. So where was the love? Where did the love come from being on radio?
I was around 12 years old, 13, and there were a couple of my friends that had started doing a little bit of community radio, just helping out at one in Wolverhampton. And I went along, and my friend said, oh, come with me, it's quite good fun, blah, blah, blah. So like 13, I trot off to go and have a look at this community station. And I loved it. And I thought, oh, wow, there's something where you can actually talk and no one stops you.
And there's nobody stopping you in the process.
So I was always a little bit of a performer, and I loved dance and things like that when I was younger. And actually, I think my first thing that I ever wanted to be was an actress, actually. And I'd been part of a local theatre group, and I was absolutely devastated because I got the main part in a theatre production to be the child in this show. And it had actually been at the Royal Variety Performance, this show, and then they were touring it around the country and did little local productions. And I got the main part, and I'd been in the newspaper, and I'd learned all my lines. You know, I'm about 12 at this point.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is it. This is what I want to do. And about 4 weeks before that show was due to air, they closed the theatre.
Oh.
And I never got to do the role. And I'd been in the paper, and I'd talked to all my friends about it and my family.
You must have been heartbroken.
I was heartbroken. And my mum sat me on this chair that I remember vividly in our house and just said, forget about that. I think she could see how hurt I was. Just forget about that. You'll have to do something else. Do something else. So I felt then that I could never mention acting again or dancing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I found this through a few friends, medium of radio, which was sort of like the next best thing to me of bridging that. And then, bless her, my mum actually found an advert in the newspaper, and she said, oh, the local hospital radio want new presenters. And I was like, that's it, I'm going to go and do it. So at 13.
But you were 12, 13.
Yeah. 13, I had my own radio show in the hospital radio.
What was you playing? Did someone I'm sure they had to show you the
records. So I I actually shadowed some people for a while, and then they said, oh, you can have your own show on a Tuesday night. So I'd be the one teeing up all the records, and I wanted to do all of it, but I just wanted to learn it first.
Yeah.
And it would be going on to the like old people's ward, and you'd get Daniel O'Donnell a lot, Frank Sinatra, you know, all of those old crooners. And I would be just queuing up these records and playing them for, you know, Dorothy and Jean on the whatever ward.
Oh, I think that's lovely.
I loved it.
Because, oh my God, you know, people tend to think that, I shouldn't laugh, but you know, you get into hospital, which I've been in a few in my time, and you know, the only radio, it's different now because we've got those televisions, don't we, now, where you know, everything is more modernized. You've got these big fluted things in front of your bed, but it wasn't like that. It was those little ear things that you stuck over your ear, and you know, and it's not like you could give a request and go, oh, could you put on a shanty, please? Or
I was hoping, I was crossing my fingers.
Yeah, or
someone would ask for
stereophonics, or you know, it was like, take what you get, because you're in a mixed ward. But I'm not going to lie, I actually liked it because I found it quite soothing, I guess, from a musical standpoint. But you know, for some people, it was like, really.
You know what I liked about it? It was a captive audience.
There was no TV. Yeah. I love it. So 13, how long did you do that for?
Oh, a few years, till about, I think 4 years, till I was about 17 when I was at college. And I then went and did, I mean, this sounds so Alan Partridge, all of this. I then went and did a community radio station. It was only for a month. They sometimes give these licenses out, which mean that you can set up for a month and broadcast in the local area, and then you go away again.
Yeah.
And they set one up in a local fire station called Blaze FM. I can't make it up. And my mum and my nan travelled with me. I sent off one of my demo tapes from hospital radio, and I applied to be the weekend breakfast co-host on this station for a month. And my mum and my nan trotted into Birmingham with me when I went to go and meet this man, because obviously to them it's like she's just meeting this stranger out of the paper. And so they came along, stood round the corner whilst I had my meeting, and he went, yeah, okay, I'll give you the show, you can come and do it. My poor dad, who worked in a factory all his life and used to be up and out by 6, I then break the news to him, for the next month, for Saturday and Sundays, I need you to get up at 5 a.m. to take me to the radio station. But he did it, bless him.
The things, well, it's either that or he would have to take you football, but you didn't play football, so the next best thing was to take you to the radio station.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But then I would say that grounded you, that's like an apprenticeship, really. The 4 years at the hospital, then at this community radio, it lasted longer than a month, didn't it?
No, actually it didn't. It was a month. It literally was there, went away. But what I got was some more material. And by the time I went to university, which I went to Loughborough, and they had a fantastic media centre. And on day one, I walked in and there was this radio studio, and I said, right, what have I got to do? This is my demo. What have I got to do to be here? And the guy took it off me. He went, we've never had anyone with a demo before. And he said, do you want the main show on a weeknight? And I used to do 5 till 7 every night. And it was news and sport across Loughborough. And I used to do that pretty much Monday to Thursday. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, are you sure I can just rock up? And he's like, yeah. And what you realise is that they're actually really struggling for volunteers.
Right.
The schedule isn't even half full. And then would you mind being the programme controller as well? And I was like, yeah, fine.
So you're telling me that I am multitasking while you're actually...
Well, you do more than me now, definitely.
No. You're the multitasker, and I know I can say that. So you've gone into this radio station, you're now at Loughborough, but then when you finish Loughborough, you still continue that path of being the radio.
Yeah. Well, actually, whilst I was in my first year at university, I was doing this student radio, and they had one of these licenses for a month, and then they broadcast throughout Loughborough. And there was a very small commercial radio station in Loughborough, and this was in the first 3 months of me being at university. And we were broadcasting in the local area, and there was a small station called Oak FM at the time, and they were after somebody to be an out and about presenter in the mornings, a roving reporter, going and doing wacky things and silly things. And they were tuning in because they wanted to find a female voice. And then they rang up the media centre at my university and said, who was this girl that was on 5 till 7 in the afternoon? And one of the volunteers, who hadn't really even met me, just said, I think it's this new girl that's just come. Let me find out her details. And then I got a message from Jim, who went on to be a really good friend of mine, saying, this radio station called, do you want to go and speak to them? So I did. And instead of getting the bar job to get me through uni to get a bit of extra income, I used to get up at 6 a.m. and go and stick stickers in people's cars and get people to pretend to be Elvis and all sorts, hug trees, lots of random stuff.
In other words, you're doing what Andy Peters and Alison Hammond does.
Yeah, I've done those sort of jobs, begging people to do things.
The thing is, you know, even though ITV is saying that, yeah, they may have laid claim to it, I think you actually laid claim to that first than they did.
I think it was going on for a long time, honestly.
It probably was.
Yeah.
Wow. All of this, and people that know you won't even know that part of your history.
I don't think many people
know
all of this at all. No, I don't think so. And I don't think they realise, you know, as a student, getting up at 6 a.m. every morning. And then that turned into a late night show in my second year. And I used to do 10 till 1 at night and shut the radio station up on my own at 18, 19 years old.
Study, Lynsey?
Well,
really?
Well, I did have some fellow students who used to think that I was maybe putting too much effort into it. But I knew that's what I wanted to do. And I managed to still come out with a 2-1. And I just thought, as long as I get a 2-1, I'm happy.
Happy, yeah. You left uni and, you know, you're still on your path. Did you go straight into radio? Did you actually have that as your job, as you went into radio as your job, or had another job? You know, as much as you want to divulge, you have a job and then...
The first thing that I did was I did a sabbatical position. So you know how sometimes you can vote at university for these different positions at the student union, and I got a joint head of media role. There's a really long story as to why it's a joint. I want
to hear all. This is why it's about you. Sports Saturday, you.
Well, it was an election that went wrong. Seeing as we're talking in the week that there was the inauguration in the US, on a very, very small scale on student elections, they managed to lose a box of votes. And it meant that me and my friend Dave ended up sharing the job. They had to create a whole other role because they couldn't prove, it was so close, they couldn't prove who won this election. So what that enabled me to do was then take on a new project, which is sort of coming to where I met you.
Yeah.
Because we set up the first ever student record label called Unity Records. And it was the head of media prior to me doing it that had started it off, Carleen, and she was fantastic. She'd come up with this name, Unity Records, which I thought was fantastic.
Which is uni, yeah.
And then TY, Unity Records. And we had a recording studio as part of the facilities at the Students' Union. And engineers would get trained up and we'd record CDs with people and bands like yourself. And people would come in and pay for that. And then I did, around the time that there was Pop Idol and stuff like that going on, I did a Make Noise competition to sign 3 acts to our record label and to try and push them and make CDs and send them around the UK. And I loved that part of it, as well as looking after the radio station.
How did that go? What sort of people did you sign to the label?
3 different acts. I had a jazz singer she was incredible, but she was jazz but quite modern. She had like a very sort of poppy style to it as well, but so pop jazz.
Yeah.
We had a band who were a bit more indie, and they were called Toy Heroes. And then we had another duo who were like a bit more electronic, I think. And then we just went down that route of just 3 different acts and try and sell CDs, put them on gigs and things like that. And I loved it. I really enjoyed that. And I was still doing my radio. I'd been doing radio and commercial radio by that point. And whilst I was doing that job, I also got a job at the weekends to present Weekend Breakfast on a station in Peterborough, which used to be called Hereward FM, but it's Heart FM nowadays.
Oh, right. Okay.
And I remember getting the call from that program controller because he was the first person to give me on a bigger station compared to Little Oak FM, to give me my own bona fide show. And it was Weekend Breakfast. It was mine. And then I used to fill in occasionally for the drive time presenter or morning presenter if they were away.
And this was all music and sports report, news and everything else all tied into one.
And then because of the record label stuff, I just thought, you know what, I love new music. So I actually introduced a section on my show, on that Weekend Breakfast show, where I gave local bands in Peterborough and that area the chance to get on the show and get their music played. And a little bit like the way that I found you.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Yeah, they ended up sending in CDs in, and then I'd say, do you want to come in and have a chat? And we'll chat back again.
Yeah.
That's what we did with you in Norwich, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's how we met. I met you there. And, you know, there's Lynsey and I have got a really deep history. She's quite pinnacle when my band Maxfield was just starting out. Fought tooth and nail for me. I think we had the Tricky album. We was on the Tricky album, didn't we?
Yeah.
We got onto the whole Tricky album, and then I think this life got in the way, because then you now, even though you were working with me, you are now elevating. So you've got the radio station, you still do it, but then contracts are coming in, things are actually happening for you, because you wanted to be a band manager, because I was looking for someone at the time, And you perfect, absolutely. But things were definitely moving in the the right direction for you. Take me from there. What happened next?
So I think at that point I'm about 24, I
Yeah.
think, about 24, 25 maybe. And a crossroads came because off the back of doing Unity Records, I then joined ULU, University of London Union in London, and they asked me to come on board and try and launch a musician centre and sort of replicate what we'd done at Loughborough, really. And I thought that was too good an opportunity to turn down.
Yeah.
And they wanted me to do it full time, but I said, no, please, can I just do it part time? Can I do it 3 days a week? And then it means I can still do my radio. So
Yeah.
I used to, do you remember on Tottenham Court Road, there used to be Virgin Megastores?
Right, stick a pin, stay right there. I'm pausing this.
Okay. I'll ask you from that point. Do you remember there used to be a big Virgin Megastores on Tottenham Court Road?
Yes.
Many different levels.
Yes.
And there was a glass radio studio there, and it used to broadcast to all the Virgin Megastores in the UK.
Yes.
But get massive bands in there as well before they made it big, like Coldplay came in, like lots of big bands. And I got a job presenting in there. This is still whilst I was working with you. And then I had a meeting because I'd always still loved my sport. I played football at that point and was, really wanting to do stuff in sport. And I had a meeting with a mentor at the BBC, and he'd been keeping across what I was doing. And he just said, I think you need to choose. I think you can't be music and sport.
Sport, yeah.
And at that point, I'd probably got more experience in music and less in sport, but I'd done a lot in the past on sport, and I thought if I let it go now, I might not get it back again.
Yeah.
And I just decided I'm going for sport, because I also felt that from a presenting point of view, music had a shorter shelf life as well.
Yes. I remember you and I having that conversation.
Yeah.
And I just remember you saying,
wanting to do it.
Yeah, I couldn't, you didn't say what the opportunity, but I just remember you just saying that, there's different things. I want to go down the sports route. And I said, okay, great. And it was just like watching you two laugh.
Oh.
Do the sports route.
And for a little while,
yeah,
we kept in touch, because I remember coming and seeing you. You played in Putney, do you remember?
That's right, yeah.
I remember coming and seeing you somewhere else.
Yeah,
course,
so we did. And
going all over the place.
Exactly. But then freestylers came back. They put thinking out, and so it's like my band, it's a bit like yourself. It was okay. I know a lot about my, sport, the football, and I know a little about music. But here was freestylers again, because I'd been with them all along. No longer Groove Armada, and it was just okay. All right, okay. I'm gonna go on road, and it ended up that I stayed on the road with them another 6, 7, maybe another 8 years. So, I was only able to revisit Maxfield just recently in the last year and a half. Wow. And as we went to put the album out, we got COVID.
Oh. And do you still work with Adam?
I haven't seen Adam for years. No, it's all the band's all just because everyone went their separate ways. Tom, I still see Tom now and again, and my drummer Johnny and Charlie. So I felt so bad because
it is difficult, but you have those crossroad moments, and sometimes got to have courage in your conviction, haven't you? And just go with
and
it.
So I went. I know that I kept thinking one day I will come back to that, but this is about you. So, but this is what happened. This is what I love talking to them. So I remember that. So we that's as far as I got with you, but I still managed to find out. I thought, oh, she's presenting now, and that's where I caught up with you. Not recently. I knew you were doing this, and for people that don't know, I'm jumping ahead just a little bit. You've gone on to present the Sky Sports and ITV. You do voiceovers, but I'm going to bring that back. You then got the call and just made the decision to do sport. What happened next?
I had a crazy conversation with a boss of a radio station. So anyone who knows radio and the program controller role, and they often set the schedule and recruit presenters, and effectively the boss. And I had to go up to a boss of one of the stations that I was working at, and I presented a 4-hour show. And I presented the whole of the 4 hours. So on one of the stations that I was working on, you know, there I am introducing the music, coming in and out, introducing the news and sport.
That's unprecedented. You know that, right? You only could do like a 2-hour slot, then you're off.
No. Like they used to be really long. Some of them were 5 hours because, of course, money-wise, they try and eke out as long as they could. But I did this 4-hour show, and I went up to the boss and said, you know what? I don't want to do the show anymore. I want to do the 1 minute at the top of the hour of sport. And he thought I was joking. Like, what? You want to ditch being the main presenter of the show to do the sport on the hour? And I was like, yeah, because otherwise, if I don't do that, it's never going to take off for me. I need to be seen to be doing sport. And then just by fluke at that same time, someone reached out to me from a Classic Gold network. And I have to say, I was the youngest person on this station by about 20 years. But
I was gonna say, when you said Classic Gold, I went, oh
yeah, it was 60s music. It was Tony Blackburn.
Yeah,
it was Trevor Dan.
Mike Reed, and yeah.
And they decided they wanted to jazz up and do a sports results and classic hits show on a Saturday afternoon. And it was 2 hours, a 2-hour show. And this was perfect for me. It was fusing music and sport, and it was on AM but at the time, and DAB, but it was a national station. And I just thought, brilliant, this is it. So I did that, and then once I'd got that job, I managed to start getting auditions for TV, and that's how I ended up at Sky.
What people don't, I mean, people would, you know, with the videos that they'll see popping in and out, they're probably thinking, why is Valerie playing all of that? Because that's Lynsey's voice you're hearing, folks, on the scores, on the 5 live scores. It's Lynsey, love. It's Lynsey, folks. He's the one that's why I'm putting it. You probably can't see her face.
They're probably really old as well if you've taken those.
Yeah, but I did. they're my old. I'm allowed to highlight you. Do you know what I mean?
We're plotting the journey, so it's from that era.
Oh, I plotted. So when you go back, because you've just joined me, when you watch this back, you'll see all them shows, and you can go, oh my god, oh yeah, okay, oh Val. I'm here now, but it's a wonderful journey, because I've seen that because you don't just cover football, you cover cricket, you've covered the sailing, you've covered the Olympics at 2020, 2012, which we'll see at the back end again, as I said. Tell me, okay, we all know that you're a presenter now. We'll come to where you are now, but prior to that, how difficult did you find adapting into a world where it is male dominant when you are presenting football, especially, or cricket? What are the pros and cons for people out there that probably wants to be a presenter in sport? How was it for you? I
think it's changed a lot now. But
how was it then?
Then I think doors were opening because I was female. Looking back on it now, Val, I realised why the doors were opening. I'd had a good grounding in radio, so I could present. I had a good voice.
Yeah, very.
I was young, and I knew my sport, but not the way that I know it now. But I knew it well.
Yeah,
and doors were opening, and I thought, oh, this is great. But I realized that the doors were opening a tad. What the doors were doing back then is they were saying, oh, well, let the ladies have a go.
Right.
Come on in. You can sit next to the guy, and you can smile and look pretty and occasionally read these lines. But when it comes to breaking news, to doing live, having an opinion, and I realized that quite early on.
Yeah.
I say early on, but long enough. I did about 3 or 4 years before I realized, hang on a second, we don't get the same opportunity here. And I was all about the knowledge. And there were a couple of situations where I had really big auditions, And I thought that it was all about me showing that I knew it, that I could ad-lib the cricket, that I could do the golf, that I could talk about League One, League Two. I could talk about those managers as easily as I could talk about the Premier League. And so I spent hours and hours and hours just getting better and researching. And actually looking back, that didn't matter.
It didn't, did it?
It was whether my hair looked nice, or whether I had great makeup, or whether the clothes that I wore flattered me the most.
Yeah.
And that is soul destroying. It is soul destroying. It's changing. It's changed quite a lot.
Yeah.
It still goes on, I think.
I know it does. Yes.
I think
I do.
Age is a big thing now as well. Like,
right.
I'm now at a point where I'm really worried about aging and not being able to do the job that I love, which men can do for as long as they want.
But I know what you mean. I totally hear what you're saying about, the whole age. It's like, okay, you need to step up and do something, and all of a sudden it plays tricks on your mind and how you eat and how you now have to be in your well-being. It's a knock-on effect. I don't think, and I'm sure, but I'll let you explain. It's only because someone else said that to me in the industry, and I'm only just, reverberating what they said, and they found it quite difficult.
Oh, but, yeah. And it must be the same in the music industry to a degree as well.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
If I had to tag on to what you were just saying, I asked myself just the other day, and I think that's because of, I never would have if it wasn't because of COVID. And it was, what are you doing? Because if you're not careful, I'm going to be watching what's going on Instagram, and everyone's an influencer these days, and everyone is, I've always reinvented myself. It's just something that I've always done. It's just something that it's been grounded in me, never to try and stay the same. I would change my hair or something. I've just been that type of person. Do you know what I mean? So it's not like, because everyone's doing it now, I have just been that person. But through COVID, what I've learned is, wait a minute, you're getting older. And even though you're on top of everything musically wise, and you're still being asked to do the latest, from grime to drill to garage, and a broad spectrum, you're singing. I'm even singing, the other day I was singing country. That's because I know,
hear that.
I know, absolutely. You'd be very, and it came out really nicely, actually. And that's because I actually do, that's the sort of music I do like. I'm a rock head. I've always been a rock head. So it allows me to, but coming back to what you were saying is, I asked myself that, and I looked and I thought, your face doesn't fit anymore, and it made me be aware. But I knew in the music industry all along, age played a massive, made a massissive difference. And so I never said who I was or what my age was. And I think we had this conversation a long time ago, and people used to always say, wow. And I thought, what's my age got to do with it? As long as I'm producing the goods and I'm singing, that's what should matter. It doesn't.
Yeah.
There's only a shelf life, and you've got to either have thick skin, but you don't have thick skin in a creative industry like yourself, because what you're doing is a creation. You're creating news, you're writing, you're elaborating on a visual activity that many can't do. Many people can't do that. But unfortunately, some of it is a man's world. But as you said, I've seen where Sky has changed a lot.
Yes,
it's become quite
really
diverse, and it's wonderful. But that's my tagging on there. But going back to yourself, so here you are, as you just said, it's like you're now worried, and you're looking at yourself, and I just want to say, I actually get you. And I'm hoping that there's other presenters that, excuse me, will watch this and identify with what you've just said.
I hope so. I'm sure there will be, and I am absolutely positive as well that it's changed and that it's changing for the better.
Yeah.
And you have to just keep hoping that next generation that come through just widen that door a bit further. See, I keep using the door analogy, but I don't think it's fully open yet. But I do think it's definitely wider than it was when I started.
Do you think they tick in boxes? I'm just saying this only because, and as I said, because you don't just do football. There's F1. I mean, I'm just a freak of F1. I love my F1, but there's football seems to be acceptable for women. In F1, a lot of women are now stepping to the forefront, which is beautiful to see. You don't really see it in cricket, even though there's a lot of women who can speak about cricket, and you're one of them. But the door is still closed. I'm going to use the door analogy. That, do you think they're just ticking boxes now? And I don't want to bring colour into, because I've just now seen that they're doing colour as well and everything else. And I'm like, oh, this looks weird. Would you have really done that?
With anything, I think there has to be a little bit of crowbarring in order for change to happen, because when you haven't had any opportunities, if you haven't been given the same opportunity to learn and to craft your skill as maybe your male counterpart has at that point, then I think there has to be a bit of placement that goes on in order for you to then learn and then open doors for others. I think there will inevitably be some lazy recruiters that decide, I'm not going to go for the person that's got all the knowledge or that's got all the experience or that's got the best, acumen for this job.
That's right.
But I'm going to go for the person that's right here in front of me, that's on the top of the pile, that knows someone who knows someone who, and that gets annoying, because I think we all want the world to feel like a really fair place, and sometimes it isn't, and sometimes it goes your way. I've definitely had breaks. I look back on something the other day in my head where one of my very first radio shows I was given, I now realize the guy probably fancied me, and I was like 18, 19, and said, you can have a Saturday afternoon show. And then
don't take away from your talent, young lady. Don't take away from your talent.
You're thinking, oh, this is
I get you.
I put all these years of hard work. I got up at 5 a.m., went and did the Blaze FM, went and did hospital radio. That's what he's seeing. No, it isn't. That isn't what he was seeing. But I only realise that now that I'm older. But I took that opportunity because when they come, people should take them. And it isn't the fault of the person that's getting the opportunity. But I think the experienced heads in this industry and the real decision makers, you just hope and pray that they make the decisions based on the right thing.
That's right. So this brings me to, all right, so I know that you're in, I'm sorry, I'm always going to call it a man's world, because growing up, that's all I saw. And, for the layman is what I call them. There's people who goes, no, we need more women. It isn't. I am still getting used to seeing women, presenting. I am. But I've always been the one that sat back quietly and gone, oh, I wish that was me. Oh, I'd love to. But I wasn't just brave enough to do it. It's like growing up, I wanted to be the first Premiership lineswoman. I didn't follow my dream. I know, how mad is that? But that's what I wanted to actually do. Singing was not my first career. But how do you juggle your life? Because Lynsey, you're always on the road. You're always on the road.
I know.
How do you juggle home life? How do you keep that together? And what advice would you give to any budding journalist who actually wants to get out there? What would you say to them? What are the sacrifices that you've had to make?
Okay, well, sacrifices, I've missed weddings, I've missed really big things for friends, because you face it, sports at the weekend.
True. Yeah.
So every time there's something going on, I've missed great nights out. I've definitely partied hard along the way, because I had that mantra when I was in my 20s that, I'll play hard, I'll work hard. But ultimately you miss out on big things. You miss out on big life things. And I think I missed out on certain relationships going through as well that I didn't give my full commitment to, because and I think I always divide it into two. I think there's a period when you're wanting to get into doing the dream job and that you're wanting to get that experience, that you have to be a yes person. And then a switch goes off at some point in your life when you've got lots of experience, you've ticked off quite a few of the things that you want to do, and you have to start becoming a bit more of a no person. And I think that's the shift. You're yes, 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 opportunity, I'll do it. And then at some point, for your own sanity and your own relationship, sometimes you've got to then become someone that works smart. And working smart means that you don't give 14 hours a day anymore.
Right.
You scale it back.
Yeah.
And I think that is the trick.
Now, if you say that's the trick, in the beginning then, because now you're seasoned, I use the word you're seasoned.
I feel like that's aimed at dogs.
Tell me about it. But you know, no matter how much you had that experience, you still had to serve that apprenticeship all over again. But once you moved up to the echelons of the BBC, ITV, you know, because you've been on Granada, you've been on Central, which brings me to, you're a massive Wolves fan.
Yes. Yeah. I get some stick for this as well nowadays.
Do you see my face?
I know, Spurs fan there. Mind you, we don't trouble you, do we? Oh,
no, maybe. Not really. No. We got a draw when we thought when you got that last minute goal in extra time, and that rankled me, that irked me a lot, because that was 2 points dropped. But there you go.
I think we deserve that for the fact you took Matt Doherty off.
Yeah. I mean, he wanted to cut. What else could we do? Do you know what I mean? He wanted to go. You've got a great manager, by the way.
Yeah.
He is just, you know, I hope he doesn't go down the path of, you see, like, what's his name? Sheffield United's boss, who's come in and he's done really great. Chris, and he's done very well. And then, you know, one season, like, you know, they almost made it into the top 4. Or even into the European League and the Europa League, and then this season they can't buy a goal.
No, but we've already done the toughest bit. So we did that. We got into Europa League, and then second season, when you're trying to juggle Europe and the Premier League, we finished 7th again and get to the quarterfinals.
I know, right?
And so we did the hard bit, but it's this season where I think a lot of teams are struggling. Look at Chelsea, look at Liverpool in recent form, and I think a lot of teams aren't fulfilling their potential. And there's a few.
Why do you think that is? I've got a view on most of them, but why? I want to hear your view on it. Why do you think that is? Without without getting yourself in trouble, because remember you're a presenter on the radio, so you've got to be very careful.
One of my theories is that I don't think they had the proper break. So although it was a pandemic year, what you have to remember is that they were told to keep fit at home. They didn't get holidays. And I think just generally, if you look at the working public, just not having that 2-week holiday away in Spain or France or wherever has had a real detrimental effect. I think
so.
I think a lot of the top players, if you look at the top players that play every minute pretty much of every match, they're the ones that I think are really feeling it.
Yeah.
And so that's why
this
depth in squad. And then you look at a squad like Wolves, and we've got the shortest squad in the Premier League because Nuno likes to keep everything very tight.
That's right.
And that's where we've come a cropper, because we've also had injuries, which we've always done very well.
I know. What was his name? The head injury.
Jimenez.
And, you know, he was like a stalwart for you guys. And then once he got injured, it's like you could see where you've struggled back there. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's like, he's going to be out for a while. We're in the transfer window now. Who's on the market for you guys? Do you think he's going to bring anyone in?
We've just brought in a striker. So I think that's exactly the area we needed. A lot of Wolves fans are wondering if we need a defender as well, because
what as cover?
Shipping goals. But I'm not sure. I actually think if we go back to a back 3, Nuno's been trying this back 4 and trying to implement a new system. And I think with everything that's happened, maybe just go to the tried and tested. Go back to that back 3.
And it's not broke, why fix it?
Yeah, exactly. So
I agree with you, because when we're looking at when I look at Rashford and even Harry Kane, look at Firmino, you know, Liverpool, they've got a massive squad. I know they've got VVD out, you know, Milner. They have a squad that can still rival many of the top teams, but they're jaded. Salah's jaded. You know, yesterday, Klopp decided to bring Salah on late because he felt that, you know, they took Burnley for granted. Does that make sense?
I think actually Wolves and Liverpool is a similar story, but on different scales. So, you know, our club got to Europe for the first time in 30 years, and they won the title for the first time in 30 years. So there were the monumental effort it took for Liverpool, because if you remember how close that first season was when they nearly got the title. And they put all that effort in, and then they had to go again. And now we're another half season on. And I just think they're tired. And I think that's the same with this Wolves squad. And I think that's why he needs to keep on freshening it up. Because you need,
I think so.
Those new legs, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I look at our Tottenham team, and I think we've got a very good squad. I just think that Mourinho is still struggling to find the best out of them. You know, because there's times that he will park the bus. You know, I'm going to hold my hands up. When he was at Man U, I kept thinking, oh, stop complaining. When he's at Chelsea, I thought, oh, leave him alone. But I get that he does that. And there's times that they really play great football. You just can't, it's like, wow, oh my God, where did that come from? But it's like they're suffering a crisis of confidence. It's like, I've got it, but I don't have it. Oh my God, is Mourinho going to go back and say, oh, the best team lost? Do you know what I mean? Or something like that, because he has these little one-liners. But, you know, we've got Bergwijn, and we've got a good players sitting on the bench. You know, I'd hate if Dele Alli went to meet up with Poch. You know, when Poch got signed to PSG, I cried. I actually cried. But I do like, you know, I've always liked Jose, even when, you know, he's having these bad times at, you know, at Man United. I just never saw the day that he'd come to a team like Tottenham, if that makes any sense. But not just him, Chelsea. I'm looking at Frank Lampard, and he just demeanor. It's like, and I'm thinking, if this is what football does to you guys, who wants it? You know. So yeah, the season I'm finding. The only person that I think that is reveling more than anybody is Brendan Rodgers.
Yes, yeah.
He doesn't look like he's lost an ounce of sleep like me, you know. He just looked at, and he was like, he looks healthy, he looks well, his squad's coming together, he's had some injuries, they've all come back, and it's like, the unsung heroes, are they going to do it again? It's quite shocking, you know what I mean? Okay. We've gone on a bit about football, because I could talk all day long about not just Premiership, all of it. But coming back to yourself, so you're juggling all of these. You also have a podcast of your own. It's called the Offside Rule Podcast. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, that was born out of this frustration of not being able to have an opinion. So it actually launched back in something like 2012. So it's been going for about 9 years now. And it was just that I felt like there was so much more that women could offer for football. And a lot of the people that I work with were very, very knowledgeable. And we'd chat in the makeup room. And I thought, I want this to be heard, because we watch this just as much. And if you looked at and I suppose if you still do look at the football list of podcasts, it's mainly just all male lineups, or a lot of men with an odd female on there. And I just thought, why not do something completely different? And this, remember, is 9 years ago. We put 3 women on the show.
Yeah.
We're 3 friends, love football, talk football, and that's it.
What are the other, your co-presenters like? What are they like?
They're brilliant. So one's Hayley McQueen, who does Sky Sports News. She's we always sort of rib her because she has about 3 teams. She supports Man United. She also supports Middlesbrough because she grew up there and worked on Middlesbrough TV for ages. And she likes Real Madrid, so we always sort of rib her.
Oh, right, okay.
And then Kate Borsay, who's worked in sport for a huge chunk of her life and is now working a lot in news, but still, you know, loves her Premier League and watches Liverpool and is a big Liverpool fan. So we just all get together and chat football. But it's incredible to be able to do that with your friends as well.
Yeah. And how long is it? So it's 9 years it's been going. What sort of guests do you have coming onto your show? Or is it just the 3 of you put the world to rights?
The main show, we sort of have 3 topics. It's a round table discussion. We'll talk
I
about
like that.
different things. So like this week's show, we talk about the good and the bad boys in football when it comes to red cards, because Lionel Messi got his first red card. So that sort of inspired us to talk about who's had a lot of red cards in their career, who's not had hardly any. And that's one of the topics, for instance. And then we also have more of a jovial topic, like we're doing homeschooling at the moment. So we're doing football homeschooling, and we did American history this time because
Okay.
America, but we did
Love that.
a few weeks ago, you know, all those sorts of topics. And it's just fun. It's lifestyle-y. You learn a little bit about us and our experiences of working in football. Often we'll talk about our own experiences, good interviews, bad interviews, all that sort of stuff. And along the way, it's won some awards, and we do some exclusives. So Hayley and I went to Sven-Göran Eriksson's house and sat down with him and did a chat with him. We've had Joe Hart on. Lots of different exclusives. Which
Love that. So everyone that hears that, the Offside Rule, it's not just foul, I'm only joking, the Offside Rule production podcast show, and they will see at the end of this anyway as well. They'll see, we'll put it up so that, you know, there's plenty of us females, and I'm in a group on Facebook of some stalwart women, I should say, who know their football, and it's a joy to be in these little groups on, you know, on social media. Sometimes I sit back and I just listen to them, but there's some passionate women, but they know their football. I mean, they could commentate. There's a couple that run their own groups, whereas it was unprecedented that happened. So I would definitely be putting that at the end, so everyone can see that, and to direct that traffic straight there, because I've gone and listened, so I know. As I said, I know what you do.
I really feel like if people, especially if you're a woman who loves football, I think if you listen to us, I believe it would become a regular listen, because it's that sort of program. But, you know, believe it or not, we have majority male listeners on that show, so it appeals to both. It's great that it does, but we'd love it to reach more and more women if we
well, I definitely be passing it to the women that's on that what is here. It's definitely going to go to it's definitely going to be flooding back down there. So podcast, you do voice. Listen, there's so many strings. If people didn't get confused at the beginning that she radioed, and then she did the hospital radio, and then she did the sports, and she played the sports, you know, you have just so many strings to your bow, which brings me to, where are you at now? This is COVID. How has that impacted you as a presenter? Because sports has become literally null and void in most areas, bar football per se. How has that affected you?
Overall, I've been really fortunate, because football's carried on since the restart behind closed doors. So I had a period, the first period when we went into lockdown in March, I had 4 months where I didn't really work.
Oh God, how was that?
There was no football happening. Well, I'm very fortunate that I have home recording facilities. So I was doing voiceovers from home, but not only that, I have a production company that I set up with my friend Kate, Offside Productions, and we pitched for some shows, and I ended up making a radio series which went on Jack radios, called The Show Must Go On, and it was to do with getting sports guests on. And Kate made a show for Talk Radio. And so between us, we're the sort of people that get down, and also I think it's worth saying, you know, I got nothing through that period. I didn't get any support, and actually because I didn't qualify for any support. So I actually feel prouder than anything that not only did I manage to get myself through that period by creating work and coming up with ideas and pitching, but that production actually gave 2 other people work as well that weren't getting it. So I am so proud of that effort. And it was hard, but then the restart came and the Premier League went behind closed doors, and I'm in a very privileged position that I majority of my work is with Premier League Productions, and they are one of the people that get to go to these matches to take a reporter. And so I've been working for them. I work for Prime Video as well as a
Yeah,
reporter.
Amazon. You're doing Amazon Prime. You're the voice. You are the voice.
I'm the one doing the interviews.
I know, but I'm so proud. Sorry, I just need to say that.
Thank you.
Oh.
But I really have benefited from that because they've had extra games compared to what they should. They get 2 rounds of matches in December, but they've picked up extra matches, and I've been very fortunate that they've chosen me to report on those matches. Which gave me a bit of extra, you know, after not having that work for the 4 months. It was really, really welcome. And I'm still working. You know, I was at Wickham today doing a preview for Spurs on Monday, going there in the FA Cup. I'll be doing a match.
Oh, hold on a minute. Are you commentating on my team?
No, I've done all the build up and then I'll hand over.
Oh, I see. I'm just allowing you.
There you go. And then I'm at Leyton Orient tomorrow doing a League 2 match as part of the FA Cup show. And then I'm doing a voiceover on Sunday. So I'm very, very fortunate that I'm getting work. I'm getting work again.
You're saying that you've been very fortunate. How people around you in your community, the work that you do, the people that you've had to work alongside, how have they coped? Without, you don't have to divulge too far, just for your, visual, what you've seen. What changes?
There's some people, I think, especially in creative industries, there's some people that haven't worked at all, because they're not allowed to at the moment, and also events aren't happening. So if you think of sports as effectively events, if those sporting events don't happen, then you think of camera operatives, directors, producers, runners, floor managers, they're all not working. Like I say, we're fortunate there's a few of us, and I say a few because it's not at all near the amount of media that usually would be at a match.
Yeah.
There's a few of us allowed in, but for every one of us that's been allowed in, I know that I've got colleagues that can't, and so they're not working, and it's been really, really cruel. I mean, I've heard of situations with some camera operators that have had to sell things and remortgage.
I've come across a few. I have. They've had to literally sell all their equipment because that was the only way to get by. No matter how much they'd worked over the years and accumulated money, they still had to get by. And their livelihood, everything that their passion that they'd worked for, gone. Just like that. It's just out the window. I had do you remember the footballer Gabriel Zakwani?
Yes.
I had him on. He's been on. He's been on the show, and absolutely brilliant interview. He just, I call him not just the wall. I call him the teeth, because he's got the most amazing teeth.
White teeth.
Oh my God, those teeth! I got to stop saying that. And he, I still, have a bit of a banter and conversation with him. Him being a Gooner fan, and he highlighted to me. He said, "I can't believe it." Just as I was going, I can't. We're now in the 3rd lockdown, and I can't work. No. I can't do anything. And he said, "It's just ridiculous." And I said to him, "I totally feel it. I really do feel it for you." And I think that there's another question I'm going to ask you is, do you find that not just, forget about singers and that sort of the side of things, how many people have become podcasters?
I think it has really taken off.
It has, hasn't it?
It's just really difficult to make it. It depends on what you want from it. I think if you want it to make money, for instance, I'm
doing it for the love. Sorry,
it's a really tricky thing to do. And I think if you're doing it for the love, if you're doing it to have something to do, especially during these times when everyone just wants to get from off the sofa, don't we? I think it's been brilliant, and it's probably really good for mental health as well.
Very much.
My advice when people are looking at launching podcasts is just try and find a little bit of a USP. Try and find something that's a bit different to what's out there.
Different niche. Yes. Yeah. So, I totally agree. I'm not saying that I'm different. I'm just, I had to fight with that in my head and say, look, I can't go to anyone's home. I don't want to go to another building and have someone sit in front of me because of the COVID. yes, I probably am a bit, but that's my anxiety I have to deal with. And it's just trying to, which I said to you, I love that buzz of going live and anything goes, and it just is what it is, and everything flows, if that makes sense. But I had to say to myself, what's my subject matter? Am I just going to go in and go, oh right, okay, and it's, I wanted people to just feel comfortable and humanize them. And so when people saw the sports edition, I think they're expecting loads of people phone videos and I'm Soccer AM. No, there's a lot of that going on. Or you have shows where there's 3 or 4 people sitting around and having a right old argument about it. So I'm not saying I'm unique, but it played a lot on my mind. Why am I doing this? It's going to be boring, and maybe it is, but I love the fact that the people do come on like yourselves and to talk about your experience, because at least one person who is looking for a dream or don't know where to go, where to start, they can see you and say, she didn't give up. Even though she's in the man's world, she didn't give up. And even at the worst of the worst in COVID, she found something else to do to keep going.
Yeah, and
that's what I'm trying to say with you,
It's like your situation too. I think a lot of people often see the end product and they don't understand the journey. And I do like to do these sorts of things just so that people know, because I do get a lot of students that write to me and ask for advice and how can they replicate that sort of career, or how do they get into doing this, or a foot in the industry. And I think it is really important to say, it isn't just somebody didn't come with a little envelope and go, ta-da!
Yeah. Okay, Lynsey, as I said, you worked for, folks, you will see all of this at the end of the video. Lynsey, is there any advice that you would give anyone that's, even if they're a student, even if they're older, it doesn't matter, forget the age that they are, and they're struggling at this point? Because as you said, some of us can't work. I'm sure the ladies in your team as well, having to have a different lifestyle, things have changed for them too. And it's you 3 all rallying together to still make your production work. What advice would you finally give to anyone out there that has a dream? What would that be?
I think where there's a will, there's a way. And
oh my God, you're beautiful.
Right now we're talking in a pandemic, and I'm seeing you crystal clear. We've got lovely video quality. We're using, one of the video softwares to be able to do this. And technology is there to help us. So when I was cutting up demo tapes and doing things on cassette and VHS, which a lot of people watching this will be like, how old is
she? Yeah.
Then there is now all of that on your phone. Right. So we've got a way. And, sometimes there's a part of me, it's all about doing things in proportion, because there is a part of the internet and technology and social media that can actually drain your mental health. I think it can be too much. It can be too demanding on you. But if you make it work for you, you don't let the machine take you over, you take it over. And then I think that you've got so many possibilities. You can cut videos, you can try and sing demos on your phone, and you know as well from the amount that you've had to do over the years.
Yeah.
And I think if you've got a will, there is a way.
There's a way. Absolutely. That is such a beautiful thing. My last question, so that was to everybody else, but this is my question to you. What was one of the best interviews you ever done?
Oh,
as an interviewer. So I want to know the one that you really, really enjoyed, and the one that was like, that was pulling teeth.
Well, remember, I've had 2 walks of life. So we've got football and sport, and we've got music. So what would you want?
Let's go with sports, because it's a bloody sports show.
Okay, sport. Well, only last week, because I think you always have to take recent experiences. I could give you lots of examples of people that were great interviews,
Yeah.
Generally speaking, I always say this, goalkeepers are brilliant. So Petr Cech, Emi Martinez, Bernd Leno, you know, all those sorts of people, they're very, very good talkers. Goalkeepers are great. And if I ever get a goalkeeper, it's very rarely that I think, oh, this is going to be really drab, right?
Yeah.
Because they're really good talkers. But last week I did a sit down with, over a video, with Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. And he was fantastic.
He looks good. I've seen an interview with him, but was it yours? I'm going to have to look. You interviewed him?
Two interviews that I really enjoyed recently. One was with him because, again, he doesn't give you just stock answers. He gives you lengthy answers and well thought out. And I really liked it.
Fantastic.
And we had a good interaction. And then in person, the last interview I did in person was with Mark Noble at West Ham.
Oh,
and
wow.
I
Yeah.
look back on 20 years at West Ham with him, with the youth setup. And I asked about his love affair with football and how it's had its ups and its downs. And I'd heard recently that he'd, you know, fallen out of love a bit with football during the pandemic, which he had. And I love that interview. It was just great. You know, the sorts of things that you want to take a copy of and keep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are my best ones. Bad ones. It's really hard because you don't want to single out people, but what I would say is I've often been that person that when a new player comes into a team and they're young and they haven't done much media, I have been that person. Would you just do a quick interview to get them like warmed up? And a few times I've been like because you're just getting a of course or definitely, absolutely, yeah, and then they don't really say anything. So
I've had that.
Get them to open up, isn't it?
Yeah. I had that recently and I thought, don't think I'm cut out for this, because I wanted to go really, but I couldn't say really. I just had to do my best, if you know what I'm saying. And I basically found that the interview was me talking all of the way through, because it's not nothing coming back, bless him. But it was like, okay, maybe not next time. That's a learner for you, Val. You got to take that one on the chin and, you know, see how the best way you can go forward from here.
I did do an interview as well with a cricketer, Shahid Afridi.
Oh, right.
And that was tough because it was just a situation where we had Emirates flight crew nearby, and he clearly thinks a lot of himself. So I just felt like he didn't really want to answer my questions. So that was quite difficult.
That must have been tough. Yeah. I saw one that you did with, what's his name, Goulet, or
Goulet,
yeah. And
I don't even know whether I'm saying the name right myself now.
Yeah, Goulet. And I was watching it and I thought, do you really want to be here? You know, and you ask him the question, he goes, yeah, you know, and I was like, wow. Okay then, you know what I'm saying to you? I was like, good on you, Lynsey, because you stuck with it. So I watched you, you know, there's some interviews that I've seen you done and you really go straight, you know, not the jugular, as some would say. Questions are well thought out. And I could see some of them, it's just off the cuff. That's it. Let's hit them with it. Let's go. Do you know what I'm saying to you? And they're not expecting it, but they flow with you. And I really, really, you know, proud of having you on today. I could sit here and talk about so many different things, you know, and I know that I haven't asked half of my questions, but you've answered, which was, Lynsey, Lynsey Hooper found out about you, the Sports Edition, who's a Sky TV, BBC, ITV, Amazon Prime, voiceover, has her own podcast. She used to be a radio presenter. That was a lot, folks, for me to just wind off, by the way. But me, Valerie, is so proud of you coming on today.
Oh, thank you, darling.
Absolutely proud of you, you know, of your career and everything else. And
likewise.
For my lowly whatever I'm doing here, I'm just grateful that you found a little notch of your time to join me today. And we've got to make sure we keep in touch and keep on, you know, and I'll keep you abreast of everything that's going on.
Oh, so, I'll rib you when we beat Spurs next season.
Yeah. No. That is a banter that we just cannot have. I'm a sore loser. I just let you know I'm really, really sore loser. But I think as good as I get on my Facebook page, they actually hate. I'm not gonna lie, they hate me. It's got so bad that I have, and I don't care if he hears me saying this. People actually message me in my messenger and say, "Oh, you're quiet." So like I might go a week or two and I might not have said anything. So I would go up on my page and I might go, "Oh wow, Man United just woke up." And then I get all the scousers going, "And what was that supposed to mean?" And then I have a whole barrage that goes on for 22 hours of Liverpudlians, because I call them the bin dippers. And I go, "Oh dear, the bin dippers are out, you know," and things that, so I go in.
You love it.
I have a name for every single one of the teams. So I just, and then sometimes when I finish, I go, "I just love lighting the torch paper and blue torch paper, just letting it go." And then I go, "I'm out." And then I get people actually messaging me, "Where are you?" So I think they expected that my shows would have been like that. But I'm professional, I said. There's no banter.
Professional.
Yeah, there's no banter going on here. So I've had a couple of people going, "How come you're not slagging off everybody?" And I go, "Me? Slagging people? What sort of language is that?" You know? But anyway,
Brilliant.
good luck for, well, I think you did win. You won, didn't you?
Yeah.
Did you not win? Okay, I didn't get to see anything.
Yeah.
Oh, bless Charlie. Never mind. Anyway, Will's has won.
Less than every other time.
Any other time. Spurs, it's our turn on Monday. Let's see what happens in. But Lynsey, thank you once again. To everybody out there, Lynsey Hooper, please give her a big hands up and bye bye guys and bye bye guys. God bless you all. Be safe, will you? Be safe. Be safe. Take care. Over and out.